The European Union loves to dress itself up in blue flags and golden stars, smiling politicians holding hands, and speeches about unity and shared values. But let's be honest, unity in Europe is a performance. Behind the press conferences and photo ops, it's the same old game. Big countries make the rules, small countries follow, and Brussels pretends it's in control. Hypocrisy isn't a mistake here, it's the system. Let's start with the biggest joke: unity. If the EU were truly united, you wouldn't have half its members quietly making side deals while the other half just nod along. Germany, France, and Italy love to talk about solidarity, but when it comes to money, trade, or energy, they do whatever they want. Germany shut down its nuclear plants, became addicted to Russian gas, and when it all collapsed, suddenly every other EU member had to pay the price. That's not unity, that's hostage-taking dressed up as solidarity. And what about migration? The EU pretends to have a common policy, but in reality, each country plays its own game. Italy screams for help, Hungary builds walls, France shrugs, and Northern Europe politely ignores the whole thing. Unity, please? The truth is, unity in the EU means, do what Berlin and Paris say, and you'll get a seat at the table. If you're a smaller country, say Greece, or Hungary, or even Ireland, your unity basically means keeping quiet while the big players decide your future. And then Brussels pats itself on the back for another historic agreement. Yeah, historic. Historic for showing just how divided they really are. The EU loves to lecture the world about democracy. Brussels politicians talk endlessly about citizens' voices and European values. But here's the thing, how much of what the EU does is actually democratic? You vote once in a while, sure. But then what? Unelected bureaucrats, people you've never heard of, people who don't care about your daily life, make decisions that shape entire economies. This is democracy in costume, like a Halloween mask. The EU wears it when it wants to look good on the world stage, but behind the mask, it's business as usual. Deals between elites, lobbyists pulling strings, and citizens left nodding along. Let's not forget the EU Parliament. It looks flashy, full of debates, speeches, and translations into 27 languages. But in reality, it has very little real power. It's like a theater play where everyone pretends to argue while the actual decisions are made somewhere else, in back rooms, by people who don't even have to face the voters. Sarcasm time. In the EU, democracy means you get to vote once every 5 years, and then Brussels politely ignores you. Now here's where the hypocrisy really stinks: money. The EU loves to parade around talking about values, human rights, and morality. But when money's on the line, suddenly, those values go out the window faster than yesterday's press release. Take corruption. Brussels loves to point fingers at other countries. You're corrupt. You're not following the rules. But inside the EU, members cut shady deals with oligarchs, energy barons, and corporate lobbyists all the time. And Brussels looks the other way, as long as the money keeps flowing. Or arms sales. The EU says it supports peace, but European countries are among the biggest arms dealers in the world. And let's talk about energy again. When Russia was convenient, Europe was happy to buy cheap gas, ignoring every value it claimed to stand for. When it blew up in their faces, suddenly it was all about principles and independence. Translation: values matter only when profits are safe. The EU doesn't run on values. It runs on transactions. And the sooner we admit that, the sooner we can stop pretending it's anything more than a glorified marketplace wrapped in a flag. Let's step outside Europe for a second. The EU loves to scold China and Russia for being authoritarian, corrupt, or undemocratic. But at the same time, it signs massive trade deals with them. Hypocrisy level: expert. China? The EU calls it a systemic rival. But Europe is addicted to cheap Chinese goods, Chinese solar panels, and Chinese electric cars. They talk tough about protecting European industry, but they can't afford to cut the dependency. So, they posture on TV while quietly signing contracts behind closed doors. Russia? Same thing. Before the Ukraine war, Europe couldn't get enough of Russian gas. Even after the war began, loopholes, side deals, and backdoors kept the energy flowing. Countries like Hungary still do business, while Brussels pretends it's enforcing strict sanctions. Spoiler, it's not. And don't even get me started on Africa. The EU lectures African nations about corruption and democracy, then signs lopsided trade deals that strip those countries of resources and jobs. So yes, the EU loves to pose as the guardian of values abroad. But the truth is simple: values are negotiable, money is not. So, with all this hypocrisy, who's left holding the bag? Not the politicians, not the elites, not the corporations. Nope, the ordinary citizens of Europe. You pay higher prices at the supermarket. You watch your energy bills skyrocket. You see your wages stagnate while Brussels spends billions on initiatives that never reach you. That's the real cost of EU hypocrisy. Every time the EU makes a flashy announcement, "We're sanctioning this country," or "We're defending values!" it usually means ordinary people will pay more while elites keep cashing in. Take inflation. Policies are sold as necessary sacrifices, but it's never the elites making sacrifices. It's you. The worker, the pensioner, the family trying to survive. Sarcasm. Don't worry, Brussels says everything is under control. Which usually means it isn't. And the worst part? They know people are angry. But instead of fixing the system, they doubled down on the theater. The EU's hypocrisy doesn't just waste money, it erodes trust. People stop believing in politics altogether. And maybe that's the point. Because the less you believe, the easier it is for them to do whatever they want. The EU talks values but sells influence. It demands unity while dividing its own people. It preaches democracy while cozying up to oligarchs and dictators. Hypocrisy isn't a side effect, it's the brand. So, stay awake, stay sarcastic, it's the only defense left.